Okay. Sorry, I'm used to seeing us on TV first. We'll call to order the Thursday, June 18th, 2026 Planning Commission meeting. If we can start with roll call, please.
Chair Dennison.
Here.
Vice Chair Simcock.
Here.
Commissioner Moran.
There we go. Here.
Commissioner Brennan.
Here.
Commissioner Yu.
Here.
Mayor, Chair, you have the quorum.
All right. First up is rotation of the chair and vice chair. Is there anybody who would like to rotate to chair or rotate to vice chair?
You do it so well.
Do we need a nomination for these? All right. So then I guess I will seek a nomination, or will somebody make a nomination? Are you willing to accept vice chair again?
I am willing to accept.
Okay, so if somebody will make a nomination.
I will make a nomination for Chair Dennison to continue as chair and for Vice Chair Simcock to continue as vice chair.
Seconded.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries unanimously. Next up is the approval of the agenda. I would recommend that rather than the minutes being a consent item, that we vote on them individually. And so I would seek a motion with that change.
I'll make a motion to approve the minutes separately
And the agenda.
and the agenda.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Motion carries unanimously. Next up is our report from Madam Mayor.
Good evening, Commissioner Dennison and Commission and city staff. We have nothing much to report except that we did go through and approve the resolution to accept the dynamic, or whatever the word was, I can't remember the word, objective design plan, but it's a living document, so we were corrected on thinking that we had to approve it as it was stated, but it's a living document, so thank you for all your work on that last week, or last commission meeting. We know how long that took you, and we really take to heart the fact that you guys work so hard at everything that comes before us, because your eyes are better than ours and you understand more. So we appreciate that. But that was a lot of work. So we'll look forward to our next meeting approving the same for your open space. And I think that is it. Thank you.
Thank you. Next up is public comment for items not on the agenda. Anyone wishing to speak on matters that are not on the agenda may do so now. If you have not filled out a comment card and you would like to speak, please feel free to come before us, state your name and address for the record, and we'll limit comments to 5 minutes today. Hearing none, we'll move to the public hearing. We'll open the hearing for resolution number 26-09, Sierra Madre General Plan Open Space and Recreation Element and the Conservation Element Update. Does staff have a presentation?
Yes, Chair, our Assistant Planner Huang will deliver a presentation.
Thank you.
Thank you, Director Lin. Good evening, Chair Dennison and Planning Commissioners. Tonight, the Planning Commission will review the General Plan Amendment 2601, an update to the open space and recreation element and conservation element. The open space and conservation element was originally adopted in the 2015 Sierra Madre General Plan. As part of the state-mandated elements in that general plan, they were integrated throughout separate chapters of the document. the update that we have here for you tonight is a separate document and not an amendment to this original document for the general plan. Due to recent state legislation such as SB 1425, the state has required every city to update their open space element by January 1st, 2026. And although we are a little past that deadline, the state also allows for cities who make a good faith effort in completing these updates where there are no penalties for that effort at the end. Additionally, AB 1889, the state requires the city to update its conservation element by January 1st of 2028. And since these two elements require similar research and are comparable to each other, we did decide to compile these two element updates together for state law requirements. And to assist in these element updates, the city has contracted with Kimley Horn Associates for the service. After the city council approved the professional service agreement with Kimley Horn had provided a presentation to city council in October of last year, going over the scope and the timeline for these updates. And following that, Kimley Horn and the city had held an in-person workshop at the Hart Park House, and also at that workshop announced a community survey that was being conducted at that time to receive some feedback from the community. In March 18th of this year, the planning department had hosted a city booth at the Wisteria Festival to publicize the future draft of these elements, which were open for a 30-day period in this past month. And it is also available on our city website still. 3 responses were received as part of that public draft. And today we have the Planning Commission meeting to review this resolution and also provide a recommendation to City Council, in which this item has been agendized for City Council's review next Tuesday on June 23rd. These element updates are internally consistent with each other and with the broader general plan, as well as the policy and goals within these elements. They're complementary and also reflect the purposes of the update, the general plan update. The general plan update qualifies for a common sense exemption pursuant to California Environmental Quality Act, Section 15061B3, and that this amendment consists of policy level updates that do not authorize or result in a physical change to the environment. And it also qualifies for a Class 8 categorical exemption under CEQA Section 15308, and that this project is an action taken by the regulatory agency for the purpose of protecting the environment. Public drafts of both the elements are uploaded to the city website and can be viewed by the public. They can do so by either scanning the QR code below each element or accessing it directly on our city website. The open forum that is on the website is currently closed. However, if any members of the public would like to provide their feedback and comments, they can do so by submitting a public comment at the next City Council meeting on Tuesday, June 23rd. And now I will pass it over to Kimley Horn. They are present here tonight. Before I pass it over, I do want to thank and acknowledge their efforts and help in coordination with the city. They've been extremely helpful in making these updates for our general plan. And I would also like to acknowledge that staff has invited the Natural Resources and Community Services Commission for tonight as well. And they've also provided some tremendous feedback, so we'd like to acknowledge them as well.
Great, thank you. I do have one question before we turn it over. We have a zone that is open space. How does that interplay with the definition of open space in the plan.
So, Chair Dennison, thank you for the question. The zoning for open space is different than the general plan update. The general plan update is more like a high-level guideline for the entire city, our goals and policies that the city would like to proceed for the next 20, 30 years, instead of a specific zoning code for, or land use code for each parcel.
Okay, so really completely two separate things. Yeah, thank you.
Okay, you can hear me? Okay. Thank you, members of Planning Commission, for giving me a chance to present this. It's been a great experience working with the city. We had a lot of help from the city. I also wanted to acknowledge my colleague Daria Young here, who is also a resident of the city and has been tremendously helping me with this project. We have 2 more colleagues coming in, but there's been a lot of traffic issues lately. So one colleague is coming from Rox Bio, who are our sub-consultants, is coming from San Diego, and there's some fire on the way, so he's been delayed. But I wanted to give you a quick overview of what we have done so far. If you can go to the next slide, please. Yeah. So California requires every city to address key topics of its general plan, known as elements. These include land use, mobility, housing, open space, conservation, safety, noise, and environmental justice. Together, they create one integrated policy framework that guides the city's decisions. Tonight, we are here because the city is updating 2 of its elements, the parks and open space element and the conservation element. So as Kaylin said, the last comprehensive general plan update to these elements was completed in 2015. And since then, new state legislations have been adopted, including the recent legislation SB 1425, which focuses on equitable access to open space and recreational opportunities, and AB 1889, which emphasizes wildlife connectivity and habitat protection. These updates ensure cities' policies remain current and compliant while reflecting Sierra Madre's local priorities. The project also included comprehensive review of existing conditions, updated mapping and resource data, and evaluation of current policies against best practices. The result is a modernized policy framework that strengthens cities' commitment to parks, recreation, open space preservation, habitat connectivity, and climate resilience. Next slide, please. The parks and open space element provides the framework for maintaining and enhancing Sierra Madre's parks, trails, and recreational resources. The updated element focuses on expanding safe and equitable access to parks, guiding investments that support health and quality of life, protecting existing resources, and strengthening climate resilience through greening and tree canopy preservation. Today, the city has approximately 29.9 acres of parkland, 7.5 miles of trails, a 24% tree canopy cover, and about 91% of residents live within 10 minutes of walking distance of a park. The 29.9 acres of parkland equates to 2.8 acres of park space per 1,000 population. So that's a metric that we use when comparing park space between various communities. Because Sierra Madre is largely built out, the updated policies focus on improving existing facilities, expanding connectivity, preserving open space resources, and strengthening climate resilience through greening and tree canopy enhancement. Next slide, please. Oh, okay, thank you. Okay. So this slide summarizes some key enhancements made to park and open space element. New topics include park access and walkshed analysis, which is a 5-minute and 10-minute walking distance from park. Equity and accessibility considerations, urban heat island impacts, tree canopy assessment, climate resilience, and expanded discussion on community facilities and recreation programming. The conservation element provides the framework for protecting Sierra Madre's natural resources while supporting a sustainable and resilient future. The updated element addresses water, energy, air quality, biological resources, habitat protection, wildlife connectivity, and climate resilience. This is particularly important given Sierra Madre's location at the base of San Gabriel Mountains, its significant ecological resources, its role in supporting wildlife movement between the habitat areas. The update also recognizes that nearly 44% of the city is covered by native vegetation communities, making conservation and stewardship key priorities for the city. So this slide highlights the the major additions to conservation element. New topics include wildlife connectivity, habitat corridors, biological resources, climate adaptation, air quality, greenhouse gas reduction, and water conservation. We've also done a very comprehensive public engagement. Public engagement was key component of the update. Outreach included a dedicated web page, regular social media updates, a city council presentation, a community survey that received more than 100 responses, a public workshop, a pop-up event at Wisteria Festival, and focus group discussions with various cities departments. We also did tribal consultation. So with that, I would end my presentation, and I'm open to taking any questions.
Are there questions for the presenters? All right. Thank you. And so I guess we'll open it up for public comment and then bring it back for deliberation, and then we're looking for a motion to approve it as presented and send it on to City Council. Is that right? Okay, great. So at this time, anybody who would like to come and speak before the Planning Commission on this specific agendized item should feel free to do so. Please keep your comments timely.
Hello, I'm Caroline Brown. I'm the president of Sierra Madre Mountain Conservancy. We incorporated in 1989, and we're the oldest independent conservancy in the San Gabriel Valley. We were able to bring the city $3.1 million in open space funding in early 1995. And 120 acres is within the corporate boundary that we purchased with that open space, including some acreage that was donated. As a private independent conservancy, citizens can donate and get a tax write-off. They can't donate property to a city and get a tax write-off, but they can to a 501c3, which was beneficial for us to set it up this way. Charlie Martin was the city attorney, alternating with being a city administrator at different times, and he suggested that we set it up in such a way that any properties that came our way, whether we purchased them or they were donated, we would give the deed to the city, but keep the conservation easement. So we have conservation easements over all the property that's considered open space, which are these wildlife corridors. These are not developed parks that are wildlife corridors. They're open space. So the question that you ask, I wasn't really quite sure, because the discussion goes back and forth whether it's improved open space, i.e. park space, where there are picnic tables and benches and trash cans and so forth, or whether it's passive open space, which we have two areas, and we do have hiking trails through them that are immensely popular, as you probably know, if you've done some hiking on them yourself. It's important that this document recognize the effort of the citizens, because we had to go to all the civic communities, the civic groups at the time, to get their support to pass this Proposition A. The first time it didn't pass because it required a supermajority. It didn't pass throughout the whole county. It wasn't just Sierra Madre. It did pass, though, when they rewrote it and put it down at a simple majority some years later. It did pass. So I want this document to be include the Sierra Madre Mountain Conservancy and its efforts. There's one small reference in the first document that I saw that came right out of the general plan. But there are other places where I've given information to the city, and I hope it's been included. A couple of things I found that were really important. A map was being used that included the fire station as city property. It has been the city property for years, the Canyon Fire Station. There was also listed as open space.
Please ignore the flashing red lights and speak as long as you'd like.
I hope you'll let me talk. It's very difficult. Sometimes I've gone to meetings where, as an individual, you have 3 minutes. If you're talking for a group, you have 5, and then sometimes they let you go on. I don't mean to take too much time, but I want to be sure I clear all this. I'm also very interested in the way artificial intelligence can be used for gathering information. So I was surprised when I saw the listing of endangered species for the Angeles National Forest, which included the California condor. It doesn't exist here. I went down and talked to Audubon Society, first called them on the phone. So data and reconciling data is fairly important. It was word for word right off the internet, just the same way I Googled it. What are the endangered species? Blank, here's the 4, 6. So I think you need to appreciate there might be more information that needs to be verified. I want it to be a really clear document. It's a hard-working group, hard information to gather all together. It's a complicated effort. There was one other thing. Well, I'm glad she mentioned the survey that the community was able to take. It was a very interesting survey. I was interested in one particular question, whether the respondent, I don't know who developed the survey, whether or not the respondent approved of habitat-friendly fencing. There is no such thing. It doesn't exist. There's no such thing as habitat-friendly fencing. A wild animal friendly fencing, because all the wild animals that we come through our areas, they've figured out how to go over every possible fence, and we don't want them to be impaled on fencing. That did happen here in Sierra Madre several years ago. Are you familiar with the fact we have a no spiked fence ordinance? It's because there were some deer that were impaled on fences. It was a terrible sight. So I appreciate that the company has stated that they got input from the citizens. It's important. But I don't think the various people that have responded have been told that their information was given any credibility. And that's important too, because it has to be a communication in that respect. I don't think I've answered all your questions, but you haven't asked. But it's okay. Thank you.
Thank you. Would anybody else like to speak on this specific agendized item? Hearing none, we'll bring it back for deliberation. Any questions for staff before we start deliberating? All right, who'd like to start?
I'll start. I think as a whole, everything looked great to me. Honestly, I didn't go fact check the entire document. I didn't have the time to do that. But I did have, and it's just some minor, it's not really changes to the information. It's more like some consistency just in the document, more like formatting type things. I can just kind of start. I've got a few things. There was a public comment, and I'm kind of going to expand on that. So Bailey Canyon is called Bailey's Canyon. It's Bailey Canyon Park. the trail is called both Bailey Trail and Bailey Canyon Trail. I think it's Bailey Canyon Trail and Bailey Canyon, but they should all be the same. So just make those consistent. A weird one a little bit. Page 8, again, it's a small thing. It's talking about existing parks, trails, and open space, and it's got a picture of like a house on a street. It really isn't an existing park, trail, or open space. Let's see, pages 9 and 10 here. Why is this not scrolling? Yeah, so on table 1, Bailey Canyon Park is not on there, on the list of parks, but it's on page 10, which is figure 1. It's on that one, right? Or no? I guess it's not on there either, so I'm not sure. I know Bailey Canyon Park it's a county park. It's not a city park, but I don't think that matters for this, right? It's still a park, so it should be included. Oh, well, there it is, Bailey Canyon Wilderness Park. So it's got another name. So if we could just kind of figure that name out. But it isn't on page 9. Some of the trails, like sometimes some of the trail will be like, if it's Bailey Canyon Trail, all 3 should be capitalized. Sometimes it's like Bailey Canyon's capitalized and then the trail's not. So if you are talking about the trail, it should be like the name of the trail. Again, like super minor stuff. The only other one I kind of want to point out is page 25 is, again, just a formatting thing to clean up. It's a Sierra Madre thing. We all have one city, state, and zip code. I don't know if you want to include that all in every single line item on the address. That's fine if we do. But if we could just kind of clean that up. So like part of it, like 611 East Sierra Madre Boulevard, East has a period after the E and Boulevard has a period after Boulevard. But on the 4th time it's mentioned, it doesn't have periods on either one. And the street names, or the city names so just kind of make that look a little bit more professional since it's a city document that we're gonna be holding on to for a few more years. Honestly, it's just minor stuff like that. I thought that everything was great. That's just my thoughts. So it's some minor changes. I don't think that would, it's still the same document. It's just kind of cleaned up a little bit.
I guess dovetailing off of that, in Table 1, existing parks, we've listed the Meadows Park that isn't been built yet, but I didn't think that we listed the park for, I can't remember the name of the track that is going to get built up there on Grandview. I'll show my age and say the old Heflin property. There's a park that's built in, or an open area that's built in to the approved settlement. So should we contemplate that being included as one of the open areas as well?
Chair Dennison. So the difference is because we're in the development agreement with the Meadows, and then the park is in construction, so we can see the foreseeable future that it's going to be delivered, and the delivered date is in the development agreement as well. So we figure we should include that because it's going to happen. In terms of the Stone House property, that we limit the use to open space, but currently we have no foreseeing development on that property, and we don't know if they are going to turn into that parcel into an accessible open space, or it's just a natural open space.
Okay. And maybe a better question to ask is, how long will this report be the current report?
I believe the general plan was for a 30-year plan from 2015, 30 or 35 year.
Okay, so it's got another 20 years or so. Okay. Other questions or comments?
I'll just make some general comments, and I have some suggestions. I thought the documents, both elements, did a really great job of capturing sort of history and current state in Sierra Madre. Is really well written in total. So appreciation to our consultants for that. I did have some pre-conversations with Director Lynn, but I thought I'd share some of that conversation because, and I'm coming at this more as not as a planning commissioner, but more as a citizen that's looking at these documents and trying to understand their interplay and sharing that with the public and sharing that with the interplay of how this document works with our overall governance of the city. And I mentioned this before, another commissioner, I'm an accountant, so when I see a list of things to do, I automatically think I'm supposed to do those, but I'll try to put those in context. So again, I think the document's great in terms of capturing existing state. I know, the reason I'm talking through this is I know that general plans are meant to be aspirational, right? And so there's definitely an aspirational tone to the document. I think especially when it comes to the goals and objectives, I do want to ask city staff though, because those goals and objectives are very lengthy, that there's been due review by the appropriate departments within the city. As I understand it, these documents are not meant to be proactive courses of action, but for instance, if we're going to redesign or reimagine one of our public parks, someone in city staff would take this document and compare it to a redesign, kind of plan and make sure we're in concert. So and the only reason I'm mentioning this is when I think about governance from the overall city perspective, there's a lot of detail, but as I understand it, we're not going to proactively manage to this. It's a little bit more of these are our aspirations for the next 20 or 30 years. But if we actually do something with the city, we're going to use it as a counterbalance to manage that project. So if I've got all that right, I'm okay with the context and kind of the tone of the document overall. Should I stop there, Director Lynn, and ask about if that's correct?
No, you're correct,
Okay.
Commissioner Brennan.
Okay. Yes.
If I could add one thing, this is,
Yes, go ahead,
Yeah,
Mr.
Jimmy.
City Attorney.
yeah, apologies I couldn't be there in person. I also got stuck behind that truck fire in San Diego. I was on my way up and couldn't make it, but I couldn't physically be there. But I just wanted to point out, this is going to be the controlling document in the city. So if there's a conflict, let's say with the municipal code or the zoning map or anything like that with the general plan, it's the general plan that controls over other documents. So it is more than just aspirational. It is a foundational document for the city. That's the first point. And then one point I wanted to make to Chair's question earlier about the open space in the zoning versus open space in the general plan. The only consistency we need to make sure we have is that the general plan map that designates open space and the zoning map that designates the open space areas both align. Those two can't be different. But you can have different requirements or different narrative text in each. But the map designations for both the general plan and the zoning need to be the same. That's all.
Thank you. And to Commissioner Brennan's point about, and thanks for that nuance, Mr. City Attorney, I do agree with Commissioner Brennan in that a lot of what is in there rightly identifies that it could be subject to funding, right? And I don't think that funding for any of this has been contemplated, at least in our current budget. And so I think that lends itself to the aspirational, but to to reiterate City Attorney's point that this is the controlling document, right? When we make our findings and say it's consistent with the general plan, this would be the exhibit of the general plan that we're saying things are consistent with, if I understand that correctly.
And I understand that, and that's a good point, and that maybe that was sort of my underlying point is this is absent, this is in a vacuum without considering budgetary considerations. That would be up to city council to control those decisions, right? But obviously looking for consistency across documentation, and this would be the governing document. I had very similar comments to what Vice Chair Simcock had. I think I got all of them, but I had a couple other just typo items. Give me 1 second. I noted all the Bailey Canyon items. Page 12, Hoagies is not a possessive, so the apostrophe should come out wherever it says Hoagies. I actually looked that up. I believe Angeles National Forest says it's Hoagies without the apostrophe all over the place, so we should correct that. On page 12, in the Live Oak Self-Guided Natural Trails section of the first sentence, it mentions the canyon, but it's in the context of other portions being described, so we should just reiterate that that is Bailey Canyon Wilderness Park. I believe on page 15, where it talks about the ratios of per capita park space and that analysis, it says that our ratio is higher, I believe. It says, fifth line from the bottom of the paragraph says, although this ratio is higher, and I believe it's referring to ours, I believe that should say, although this ratio is lower than the national standard because we have a more dense population and we're 1.53 acres of parkland for 1,000 versus 3-ish. I think that should say lower. I'm going to come back to this comment in a little bit. Preserving the names of organizations, page 28. It says, for example, the Sierra Madre Rose Parade Float Association. We should strike the word parade. It's a Sierra Madre Rose Float Association. I hope we have that organization name right. Page 26, Lizzie's Trail Inn, and the heading should say Lizzie's with an apostrophe. That's possessive. Page 29, it mentions the Hart Park House, but it says Hart Park Senior Center. It should say Hart Park House Senior Center. And then I do want to, I actually wanted to ask because we have residents here, and putting my discussion aside about aspirational note, there's a pretty lengthy discussion about, and maybe this is something that our consultants could chime in on. It's a pretty lengthy discussion about the canyon residents, and their being removed or difficulty in terms of traversing from the canyon area to city parks, which I think physically is a fact, because there are narrow streets, there's incline going up into the canyon, et cetera. But there's a number of paragraphs about this topic, and there's some indication that we're going to try to solve for that problem. And I'm just curious in the feedback that we got from residents, et cetera. While I absolutely undeniably agree that that is a physical geographic challenge in the city of Sierra Madre, I actually walk up to the canyon regularly to have breakfast or to get away from the city. And so I feel like I'm already in nature. And I'm just wondering if that's a problem that our canyon residents feel like we should be solving, that we want to create better thoroughfare from the canyon out to city parks. It's just, I felt a little bit disconnected from what I think about the reality of Sierra Madre as a city and its residents. I don't know that I would want to have more access going through up into the canyon, honestly. I think we have fire considerations and safety considerations, but I don't know how we would solve for that with widening streets or putting in sidewalks or mention that sort of thing. So, and since we have canyon residents here, I thought I would open it up. But I don't know if we also got any feedback from canyon residents during the process that would indicate that that would be something we'd want to actually solve for in the document here.
Would you like to speak to that for us, please?
Hello. Yes, so if you go on to page 16, I think it'll help kind of. So part of the existing conditions is kind of just establishing a baseline of what is happening within the city, the issues, concerns, and also just the current what's going on. And part of the survey that we did receive, walkability and safety was a factor that residents did speak upon. And if you look here, this is a walk shed. So it essentially says, and again, this is all kind of how the bird flies, but it essentially shows the areas of the city that individuals cannot walk within a 5 to 10 minute ratio. So that green area in the center is the 5 minute walk, and then the kind of green checkered is a 10-minute walk. And so some of the canyon areas, most of it is within a 10-minute walk, but they are not exactly directly near a park. Their smallest park would be, excuse me, I always call it Turtle Park. But so there, it's kind of the point of that sentiment was just that when you're looking at the current conditions, they are at a technical disadvantage in the sense that there's not a park nearby. And again, if you want to go play soccer or whatnot, that your smallest park, while you do have a park, it is a smaller park. And so you do have to walk a further distance. And so in the sense of that context, I think what you're asking is more of just, it's given a lay of the land of this is existing of what's happening. And so the policies and such, that would address the potential of changing. I don't know if it answers your question.
So can I, just to clarify, in there, there's a, I don't know if you want to bring up the document, if that's possible. Back to that, let's see, what page am I on? Page 18, I think it is. If we go, is the, I guess one where I got hung up a little bit is this last paragraph where it says moving forward. Access will require not only better pedestrian infrastructure, but is that a generic statement to the whole of the city of Sierra Madre where we're, and that maybe that's the clarification I needed, rather than just in the canyon then? Because we talk, there's quite a bit of talk about the canyon. If it's a general statement, I'm good.
Yeah.
It makes sense.
I think in general, there could always be improvement of walkability, access. So that's what the sentiment was going towards.
Okay, thank you.
I have a question, since we were looking at that map. It was something I didn't notice earlier. Can we go back to that map on
Page 16.
16? If we look at D, I think we just have like a, I mean, I think those green circles are basically just a radius around from the corners of the park. The only thing I noticed on that is there's no access from the north end of that park. That's the city yards and the settling basins. So to walk to that park from anywhere up top, you would basically have to walk all the way to the bottom of the park. I don't know if that's
Like you said, it is kind of like as the bird flies. So like
right.
technically speaking, so like some areas you'll have situations in cities where you could walk 5 minutes to a park, but there's a freeway going in the middle. And so yeah, you technically could walk to the park, but
You'd have to run across a freeway. Yeah, that's
and technically there is that back little path from Orange Grove down past through the
from Grandview.
kind of down that side street through where the ballparks are. But
There's a house
Yeah.
that blocks the middle of that. And I think with the, I don't know if you can get through with the new solar project there anymore.
You can.
Oh,
You can
you get
you
through
can
there
walk
now?
through there.
Okay,
Yeah.
great.
You can now? Okay.
Yes.
Oh, good. When I was a kid, you couldn't. I don't, but it's obviously been a couple years since that happened. So.
2 or 3.
2 or 3, yeah.
We can definitely make a note on the map saying that the map shows as the crow flies.
Yeah, just so we're, because, well, here I think it's correct, because we say quarter mile and half mile. In the other statement, it says a 10-minute walk. And that changes to me if like, it's not a quarter mile or a half mile, it's a 10-minute walk. What's 10-minute walk? If 10-minute walk is defined as a half mile, then that's fine. Maybe we should have it state that instead of 10-minute walk, a half mile.
Yeah, we'll state that in urban design, that is what we do, like a quarter mile is generally
Yeah.
taken as a 5-minute walk, and a 10-minute walk is generally seen as a half-mile walk.
Right.
We can add a statement there stating that.
Yeah, that's fine.
That's all I have. Thank you.
Wow, that's loud. On the subject of typos, I do think if you, there were a lot of good ones caught already. I just put the document into Claude as well and asked it to call out typos, and all the ones I checked were accurate. So I think you can do that in addition, and there are remaining typos that haven't been called out. From the perspective of the canyon, I do feel, very much in nature, and the Turtle Park colloquially is quite nearby. I do think the point of, I remember when we put the sidewalks in on, I think it's Sturtevant, that made that a little bit more walkable for families and other things like that, especially with traffic. And I know the canyon density is, we have all sorts of different setback laws, et cetera, but it could be aspirational to put in more sidewalks on some roads where it makes sense and there's room. I know currently I'm kind of up from the Turtle Park and my kids are fairly young, and if we had sidewalks, I would be comfortable with them walking there by themselves, but because we don't, I'm not comfortable. So I think aspirationally, we could try to explore that. Now, I still don't think it would make sense on my tiny little road because my road is too tiny, but maybe there are some roads which they are large enough that could be a consideration. I do like the variety of aspirations in the document. There was a mix of the dark sky recommendations as well. I'm a former astronomer, so that does resonate with me. At the same time, it's a lot of effort to undergo, and we're already in Los Angeles where there is a lot of light pollution. So I think we should think whether that's a true value of the city to aspire to, because the best stargazing is probably not going to be in Sierra Madre. People are going to drive elsewhere, et cetera. At the same time, it's good if our kids can see, Mars and Venus and the moon and that sort of thing. So I would just want to reflect, how much that is of city value and whether it's the juice is worth the squeeze kind of there. The aspirations resonated. I think one tension that we see in this modern era is the many of us moved to Sierra Madre because we like being close to the mountains, the wilderness, the animals, et cetera. At the same time, there is this, growing struggle in California of being able to move to Sierra Madre or other communities because of housing being expensive and density being hard to achieve. The more density you have, the more people are going to be in walking distance of a park, et cetera. So I would like to maybe see some more language in the report recognizing, preserving some of those trade-offs, that we're not, making parks so that nobody can walk to nowhere, but we're trying to, get a lot of people in the vicinity of parks. And part of that is also about continuing to build housing in a smart way. So I think, particularly with that being a value of kind of the California state legislator looking at the places where, if this is going to be the tie-breaking document between, say, some conservation efforts and some, housing efforts, like, where do you see that going wrong, and proactively putting in some language to break the tie in the way that the city values, however that is. And maybe that tie is in favor of the deer, or maybe that tie is in favor of, the brand new family, or maybe we find a way to break the tie in a smarter way. But I think sometimes there'll be trade-offs between those two. Overall, I enjoyed reading the report, and it speaks to why we moved to Sierra Madre, and it was lovely to see all the various history and local landmarks woven in, and appreciate all the hard work.
I just want to say thank you for all the effort that's been put in, obviously by our staff as well as Kimberly Horn. I'm more familiar with you guys on the civil side of it, but I know that you're a large company, so I think you put together a good document. It was a good read actually to be able to familiarize myself with a lot of the things that were in there that you kind of knew, but to get more detail about it was really good. I think we picked up on a lot of the grammatical, maybe some of the spelling stuff. That's always going to happen. So as we pick that up, I didn't have any major things that stood out to me. So I'm good with the document as it was with the revisions. So thank you.
Great, thank you. Similarly, thank you all for all the hard work you put in, and thank you, staff, for all the hard work that I'm certain that you supported to put together this document. It's a great document. I remember previously that we had to correct some zoning on Baldwin because it was not consistent with the general plan. And so I just wanted to confirm that staff had double-checked these maps against the official records to ensure that we have them correctly labeled, especially for those open space ones. We see those lots for sale all the time.
Yeah, so staff has checked on the maps, but we'll do that again as the last scroll.
Great, thank you. A couple of suggestions. Page 6, they have the park names, and then page 23, the locations were not identified. And so I don't know if we want to be consistent in naming where these images are. I think the pictures fill up 75% of the page, so maybe, yep, add those facilities. And while we're on this, the softball, baseball diamond is one of these pictures, but it's not listed on page 25 with the rest of the community locations. So if we're saying that this is a community facility, then it should either be listed or we should find a picture of a community facility, would be my feedback on that. And then right, I didn't see it listed there. And then if we go to page 25, the city owns the 2 locations that are listed as the YMCA's, and those are subject to leases that change more frequently than the 20 more years that this document will be around. So I would recommend striking YMCA from those. And conform that through the next page as well, where it's the Sierra Madre YMCA Community Recreation, Sierra Madre YMCA Aquatic Center, and then the name of the picture as well. If we can remove those references and keep those just generic so the city can do what they want. And if it's not too much trouble, the library had its ribbon cutting recently, so we should be able to update that picture through all the effort of the entire city staff that participated in that. We can probably get a picture for you with any local dignitary you want having been photographed there recently. Thank you. In the community organization and agencies, what criteria did you use to locate these? And I ask with a mind of ensuring that we have a complete list. I'd hate for somebody to come back and say, well, you didn't include the Sierra Madre chapter of bird watchers. So if you wouldn't mind letting us know.
Yeah, we used various city resources, and then additionally, we received comments from Mrs. Brown, and we did update certain sections to address a lot of those comments, and that section was expanded upon based off of those recommendations. And if we received any other city comments, we would also have added that as well.
Okay, great, thank you. And I think those were really the comments that I had. It sounds like with all the feedback that was received that people are pretty happy with this. Was there anything that people wanted to look at in the other plan? No?
I did not have any I did
Nothing
not have
from
any
me.
specific feedback on the conservation element.
No, I had everything was fine in that to me.
And one last question for the team. I assume that similar to reports like this, when feedback is received, people who made that feedback are not going to receive direct communications that it's been updated, but if it is received, it gets included in the report, and any updates will be conformed throughout the report. Is that accurate? So, for example, the condor concern, if condor was listed and it's not, then it would be removed.
For the most part, yes. We worked with city staff to go through the comments and just assure, like double check our work and data. And then if for those that were deemed that were accurate, we adjusted accordingly. And so yeah.
Great, thank you. Really appreciate all the hard work here. It really shows, and it's a document we can all be proud of for the next 20 years. So thank you. And with that, I will look for a motion.
I'll make a motion to approve resolution number 2609, Sierra Madre General Plan Open Space and Recreation Element and the conservation element update with the comments and which were all minor changes that were discussed this evening.
Seconded.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries unanimously. Thank you all. All right. Next up, we will take individually each of the meeting minutes.
I will make a motion to approve the minutes of the May 7th, 2026 Planning Commission meeting.
I second.
All those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? And abstentions?
Abstention. You weren't here.
You weren't here.
You weren't here.
I was not here yet. I abstained.
Okay, so 2 abstentions.
I will.
You want to move? Skip.
It's getting, sorry, I think I was here for it.
I'll move for the approval of meeting minutes from May 21st, 2026.
Second.
All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Abstentions?
Abstention.
Abstain.
All right, motion carries.
I will make a motion to approve the meeting minutes of the June 4th, 2026 meeting.
Second.
All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Abstentions?
Abstention.
Abstain.
2 abstentions. Motion carries. And we are up to date on minutes. Whew, my favorite part. Reports from planning commissioners. Anything to report?
Nope.
No report.
All right. I will report that I was so proud of all the efforts that the planning department had done that I did get them all lunch because I wanted them to feel the appreciation. When we went before I was at the meeting where the council approved the last project, the objective design standards, and the council kindly lauded us with the commission with thanks for all the hard work we do, and there's no doubt about that. But I really also wanted to point out that the reason that we look good is because staff makes us look good. And so thank you very much. Really appreciate all you've done, not just in the objective design standards, but that was a particularly tenuous one. So thank you all. Reports from city staff.
Chair Dennison, thank you for that. And our next agendized meeting is July 2nd. I'm looking to see if we will have a quorum. The staff is preparing the commercial code updates, but we're not there yet So we're looking to see if we can cancel that meeting and continue, to the next meeting on July 16.
I think while people may be present, that they won't be here that close to our long celebration of our 250th anniversary. So I would personally recommend canceling the July 2nd meeting.
I cannot be here.
All right,
And that concludes my report.
great, thank you. Anything else? Let's see, July 2nd and 14, yeah. I will then adjourn the meeting till our next regularly scheduled meeting of July 16th. Thank you.
Thank you.
At least, well, last, yeah.